Good morning, ladies. I'm Swetha Kannan, and I'm here to present on red teaming for beginners. The session is mainly targeted towards students and IT professionals who want to enter into cybersecurity and are thinking of pen testing and red teaming as a potential career option. Before we begin, a little about myself. I am currently working at Preston. I am a sysadmin, and I've been in this industry for close to 7 years now in cybersecurity consulting. I have worked on various aspects of advisory services, IT assessments, audits, threat and vulnerability assessment management, pen testing, advanced persistent threat design, etc. I'm also currently volunteering with a few nonprofit organizations and also spread awareness of security. Cybersecurity is a very hot field today, and we all know why. Today, the security landscape has drastically changed, especially over the past decade. Almost every service is digitized today. There are numerous number of connected devices that share sensitive information and even peer over the cloud on a day-to-day basis. The attack surface and has exponentially increased attacks and breaches in the past few years. Today, cybersecurity is not an IT problem anymore. It is a business problem, potential to cripple any business in a very short span of time. In cybersecurity, security control. How do we measure a good security control? To evaluate a good security control, it should address the core called the CIA Triad. This is the most basic stuff in cybersecurity, and I think all of us must have heard this. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Confidentiality is to prevent unauthorized disclosure of information. Integrity is to assure that data cannot be modified in an unauthorized manner. And availability is to ensure that information is readily available for authorized users. Let's take a simple example to understand CIA Triad better. Say we are running a business, family business, a secret family-made cookie recipe book. In order to business, I should ensure three important stuff. One thing, the cookie recipe book is only for the family member. It does not wrongly end up in the hands of other person, so that they might become a competitor to me tomorrow. So this is nothing but confidentiality. Next, I will ensure this recipe book or the recipes in this book or any information in the recipe book is not modified, not only outside, but also from the family members without consent. This is nothing but integrity. And I will also ensure this is available to everyone in the family whenever they need. If they are baking a cookie now and have a doubt, they can access this book, halting the business so that it time and money in future. So this is availability. By ensuring these three conditions, I will ensure my security is sound. So we understood CIA Triad. Let's see about next stuff. Cybersecurity. Or numerous number of cybersecurity teams, but most of them would fall under one of these buckets. It would be either governance, risk, and compliance, which is nothing but policies, standards, guidelines that the management initiates and enforces throughout the organization. Next would be security, which the implementation of IT infrastructure, network security, everything. Almost everything IT, the implementation part, security engineering. And next would be red teaming or the offensive security. And blue team is nothing but the defensive security team. Since today's track is about, let's jump onto what red teaming is. Red teaming is an adverse approach. It is the type of where you think like a hacker, you think like an attacker, and try to break into the security. we should know that red team is always a separate team in every organization. It will not be a part of security engineers or blue teams. This is because of the principle of segregation of duties. Security controls are configured in my team or in my organization, I may probably cut slack while I'm testing, and I will think these things are very secure, needn't test further. So to prevent this attitude, red team is underlying knowledge of how security controls are configured for that particular organization. And very important thing is red teaming is always initiated after management's approval. To reiterate one, if you're trying to learn about pen testing or red teaming, you want to learn new things, please do not perform any attacks. Please do not, even with a good intention, try to scan any networks which you do not own, because it might result in criminal process. In further course, I would suggest how to learn and where you can learn this stuff. Next, as I was saying in red teaming, you as an attacker, as an employee, but with the mindset of an attacker, you have attack various controls within the security. You target the technological controls, you try physical breaches, you try breaking into the administrative controls. These are the things red teamers do in order to break into the security of an organization and gain control. These are the various phases of red teaming. Red teaming starts with planning, followed by open source intelligence, which is nothing but information gathering. Then they go on to penetration testing, social engineering, to find vulnerabilities in architecture, security architecture. Once they found the vulnerability, they exploit it. Once after exploitation, they try to escalate their privileges to an administrator level or super admin level to gain full control of the machine. And once exfiltrated what I want or the sensitive information that the company has, move away from the attack system. A lot of these terms might be unfamiliar for a few of us. So why not understand these terms with a little analogy? Let's assume we are detectives. We all love to play detective. So let's assume we have a secret assignment is to find ammunition information from the diary of an accused named X. So let's assume this, and I need to get access to that diary without him knowing. How will I go about it? I would first plan the activity. I would understand the goal. I would want to know to be achieved at the to get access to a particular diary of X with a particular information that has to be exfiltrated. So collecting information about X, I will check his criminal history. I will do a little background verification. I'll match his IDs with government agencies and learn about him. Talk to his neighbors and know what kind of a person he is. Where does he do? So first thing would be collecting information about him. Next, I would probably follow him or shadow him without his knowledge. I would look out for clues. I would want to know the map of his schedule to know where he is at what time, which is his workplace, where does he stay, and how long does he stay, what is the time where I can break into his home and get that diary. So I am essentially search for a little weakness or when he will not be available. And I will also check what kind of security lock he has in his home. Is there a monitoring CCTV? I would collect these and I would investigation map. After that, I would probably talk to his family and friends under disguise. I cannot just go and say, I'm a detective, I'm from FBA. They wouldn't actually spill the beans. I would instead say, I am X's friend. I recently lost contact. Do you know? Excuse me. where I can meet him, or where he would be at this time, his house, to get information from his very close set. Next, I would enter, once I've created all my necessary stuff, I know his weakness, I know when he'll not be at home, what he'll be doing, how long he'll not be home. Once I have all this information and I know about the security system and how I can break in, now when I know for a fact that he's not at his place and he'll not be there for next 2 hours, I would probably try to break into his home. And I would look out for his diary with the information I think I need. So once I get hold of the diary, I would take all the information in the diary. Kind of a cheat, but I would ideally not stop there. I know he's not going to be there for next 1 hour, so what I'll do, I'll just dig around. I'll see if there is anything else, any other diaries with some other information that might be useful for us in future, or some other documents or papers, anything that might be of interest for us in future or might help us. So now I've taken a lot of information which I might think, which I feel is necessary, which is sensitive for him. So after all this, when I know he might be back soon, what will I do? I leave. I leave, but without trace. I'll remove all fingerprints. I'll remove all evidence. I'll make sure it looks as if it had never been broken into. I'll never give, let him suspect me. And I might even bug the house. I might leave a microscope or a button camera somewhere just to monitor his activities and know about his future course of action. Now, let me tell you, this set of actions, interesting, is very similar to a red teaming activity. In red teaming, we do similar set of actions, but in a different context. Beginning with planning. Planning is just the same. You understand what the organization wants from us, which is breaking into the security. So once I've understood the goal of the activity, I would go ahead and instead of collecting about a person, information about a person, I would information about the organization, which is the OS in space. OS is open source intelligence, where I Google or I use several tools to understand about the organization. I learn about the organization from various social medias. I read from Google. I see, has the organization already been, been a part of any breach? Is there any already leaked information on the internet? I would create a big list of all this. I will see what are the services that organization is running on the internet. Are there applications, domains? If there are domains, what are the IP ranges that are for these domains? This is, in essence, the open source intelligence. Next, instead of following that person, I will follow the network and track the network vulnerability analysis. So here, what I would do, I would see the network to see if there are any ports and services that are hosted on the internet. Are there any updates? Are there any inherent misconfigurations or vulnerable that are running on the internet by these organizations to exploit into? Just like a detective talks to families and friends to gain personal information, I here would do social engineering, where I would disguise myself as a very senior officer and talk to employees. I'll get a lot of sensitive information which I didn't be revealing. So network scanning, vulnerability analysis, and social engineering will give me enough food for thought, and I will know where this company. Now, I would exploit. I would enter his house. I would break into the security architecture of this organization and exploit the vulnerabilities that I've already mapped. After exploiting, I wouldn't stop there. Even though I have a little information which I can right now leave, I wouldn't stop. I would go ahead and try to escalate my privileges to a root user or a super admin so that I have access to their system. Once I'm a root user, I essentially have access to the entire system, not just that system, anything with that system I can park the system, I can leave a backdoor, I can do anything with that system. And also, I laterally to other machines in the organization and start compromising one after the other. After all this, I would purge the logs and leave as if I had never been there. And if necessary, I would leave a backdoor to say, maybe track there in future without their knowledge. Looks interesting, isn't it? So this is the approach and methodology for red teaming. Now that we know the methodology and approach, now we know how to think like a hacker. Let's see what are the tools a hacker uses. Red teaming, Kali Linux is a very well-known platform, and it's an excellent platform for offensive security. You have multitude of tools and utilities. There are hundreds and hundreds of tools for various phases of red teaming. You have for information gathering, you have for web application analysis, password attacks, wireless attacks. You can reverse engineer malware. You can even do forensics. You can do post-exploitation, sniff, spoof networks. You can even social engineering. There are tools which help you do social engineering stuff. There are a multitude of tools which are available in the Kali Linux platform and would be the best point to start for anyone who's learning. And of course, it is used by the experts as well. And another important thing is Kali Linux has a lot of documentations and resources available on the internet. So if you want to learn a particular tool in Kali Linux, there's a lot of manual inbuilt information as well, but you can also use resources that are present on the internet. Active community that is trying to build Kali Linux, make it better, build new tools for us for the better user experience and better hacking. And the best part is it's free and open source. So going ahead with various phases and see let's see the tools that are used for each and every phase of red teaming. Starting with OSINT, open source. Basic thing is social media. If I want to know about you, I go through your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your Twitter, just to know who you are, what you're thinking, what's your perspective in so many things. Similarly, I can track an organization's vision, their thought, how good their security culture is. All this I can obtain from and Google Docs is another tool, which is essentially Googling, but with specific keywords, so that I get sense or I can know has this organization been breached already? Organizations, are there misconfigurations? I can do that. And there are several Kali Linux tools for open source intelligence. Recon Energy is one such tool. It gives a lot of information about the company. There are tools like shared password, shared secret, credentials, etc. The Harvester is one such tool. Once I give the email domain of an organization, I might get few information about several email IDs, working email IDs within that organization. These things can be used for pen testing as well as social engineering. OSINT Frame is a website which has collection of a lot of open source tools and information about how it works. I would encourage you to visit that website because OSINT is a huge topic in itself. So after OSINT, I would proceed to network scanning. OSINT, now I have a list of domains and IPs and applications that the organization is running. Now, so network scanning, there are several, there's but Nmap is the more popular. So once I have a list of IPs and applications, and every IP, every application to see what are the services that are running, what are the ports that are present, what are the versions that are running these services. You find if there is any vulnerability I can use to hack into. Any their versions that are already vulnerable with CVIDs, I look for that information. Now, I would input this into a vulnerability scanner. Vulnerability scanner is just an automated scanner, which when given port and services information, it will give you a list of vulnerabilities that the system might be prone to. Nessus is one popular vulnerability scanner. There are plenty of others in the market. This essentially saves time for a for an ethical hacker or even an attacker. You may say. So now I know what are the vulnerabilities in the system of the organization. Once I have this, go ahead and exploit the vulnerabilities. So once I know the here I have given an example. This is just my vulnerabilities out there. Here, put 80 and 22 open website. Then I used a few tools to brute force the URLs, and I found directory index not available in the website, but when you brute force information, from there I got a key agent. I was just browsing through the index and I found a key agent. Now I think it's useful for entering search. So I use agent and try to log in through SSH. And luckily, I gave a random default password like admin, and I am into the system already. But I'm here as a low privileged user. So I will have access to a few sensitive a lot. So what will I do next? I would want to escalate my privilege. Right now I'm a user. I have few privileges. I can, but no, to own the system. I want to move the system, compromise as many systems as possible. So I would try to escalate my privileges and move laterally to compromise multiple. How do I do it? There are several escalation techniques, be it in Windows. Some would be kernel exploits. If there are programs that are root, any passwords. If there are pre-installed software that are already vulnerable, if plain text passwords, if there are any misconfigurations in the SUID, without it, the list just use now to escalate my privileges. In the screenshot, I've used an exploit called Dirty Cow. Exploit is for machines that are running kernel versions lesser than 4.8. So now we can exploit that exploit, and I have when I give a command. I'm asking the system what I have, and it says I have root privileges. So I now own the system. And from here, I will move to other systems as well. So with this, I would exfiltrate as much as sensitive information as possible from the organization. This is what an attacker do. Extract this information and tell the management this is what an attacker can do to your company. But how will I make them understand? I give them a report. Not just a managerial report. We ideally give management to and for technical people to patch use. So the report will contain details of the vulnerability, rating, what says is it a critical issue? Should you immediately medium level issue? How do you address this issue? That's risk rating, and then see that is not the steps I took that issue. Think about what fix the internal team, security engineers should do to stop that or to plug that. But we do a post-implementation review, which is ideally a reassessment of the entire infrastructure. We ideally do the same tests again to ensure that after the patches have been applied, after the fixes have been done, are they done perfectly so that this attacks cannot be replicated again. After a post-implementation review, ideally organizations track these information in risk management register for their future references. So if all this sounds interesting, with that, we actually came to a closure of a single red team activity. If this sounds very interesting for you, then probably you might consider a kid in pen testing and red teaming. If your question is where do I start, I would suggest a few steps. You can start with understanding the basics of computer networking principles. Building a strong foundation is very, very important in this field. So you should understand how network devices work, what does OSI layer mean, what are the various protocols and services running in a machine, how does the OS function. So basic stuff like that. Coding knowledge would be very useful in the future, but it's not a mandatory. You can learn it. You can learn simple things like Bash and Python on the way. After that, you can learn tools and techniques, say, which are present in the Kali Linux platform. There are several online materials, as I had mentioned already. Use them, leverage them, and learn these tools and techniques. But I would again and again reiterate, please not perform or hacking on any network you do not own, even if you have good intention, even if you think, I will do a scan, I'll find the vulnerabilities and I'll tell them, I'll intimate them, I'll say, this is your good, just fix it. No, it doesn't happen like that. We'll be liable to criminal prosecution. Just running an Nmap scan will still make you liable for a prosecution. So please practice all these tools on platforms like Try, Hack Me, Hack the Box, etc. Try, Hack Me, Hack the Box are excellent platforms which are specially created to learn ethical hacking. There are hands-on exercises, labs, etc. It guides you well from beginners levels to advanced level. So please practice on these platforms. You might want to note it down. This field, then you might want to start with simple certifications like Mentors plus CEH, and as you progress in your career, you might want to go to OSCP, OSCE, etc. While getting certifications will get your foot in the door, it's always best to connect with industry professionals, cybersecurity forums, etc. You can be a part of Women in Cybersecurity. There are multitudes of cybersecurity forums which support women, and also there are other Discord study groups, etc., where you will be benefited by your peers. You might be mentored. Currently, I am a mentor in Empower Cybersecurity. There are a lot of resource sharing happening there, free certifications, a lot of sharing. You talk to different professionals in different field of cybersecurity, so you can join groups like that. And you might also want to follow a few people on LinkedIn who provide information about etc. On LinkedIn. They post about job. They post about free resources, etc. These are some of the people I would suggest a beginner to follow. And this is a set of books which have a very practical learning approach. So you can get a holistic perspective of security in Kali Linux or any other platform. So you can use these books as well. You might want to make a note of it, take a screenshot of it. That's perfectly okay with me. So with that, I would like to wrap up my session. It's a very, very interesting field. It's technically demanding, but it's very interesting. You'll not find a single dull day. You will constantly, be learning new stuff, new cool techniques, etc. It will require a lot of time investment, but it's totally. With that, I would be open for questions. 2 minutes. So if there are any questions, I would be willing to take. Right now, rather, I not prefer use tools. So Parrot OS is there with few more tools that are not available in Kali Linux, but Kali Linux and some tools that are very credible are what I use. Because I'll tell you, darknet, while it might seem sometimes when I run a tool, not always go and check the code. It will be a trap. It might backfire. I might system, but actually that code is hacking. So I would suggest not to use darknet if you're, or even if at advanced level, go with the credible stuff. Thank you. Any other question? I think out of time. If you want any career guidance or any questions, please hit me up on LinkedIn. I would love to help you all. Have a great day. Thank you, everyone. Good luck. Bye-bye.